The sky was getting dark. A thunderstorm was imminent, and there wasn't a house in sight to stop and ask for directions. Trey was approaching a fork in the road and was almost certain he should go right, but the GPS was telling him to go left, so he did, and drove into the oncoming thunderstorm. Within seconds, the blowing rain shifted his visibility to only a few yards ahead. The windshield wipers were ineffectual against the downpour, and the graveled road was quickly becoming a quagmire. He kept looking for a place to stop and wait it out without blocking the road, but the road was too narrow, and there was nowhere to turn around without getting stuck. With loud claps of thunder overhead, followed by imminent cracks of lightning, it was all he could do to stay focused. Then, all of a sudden, it was as if the world blew up in his face. Lightning struck a tree just to his left with such explosive force that he instinctively turned his head away from the flash and flying debris. But as he did, he swerved, then overcorrected, and before he could regain control, the car began to roll. He was still conscious when the windshield popped out, but he never knew when the driver's side door broke off, or when he landed upside down in a flooding ditch. The last thing he remembered was driving rain in his face, and then everything going black. For the past 7 days, Marley Corbett had been on what she called a gathering mission, traveling through little hidden-away places in the Ozark Mountains, talking with the locals in the hills, cooking with them, baking with them, and when she could, coaxing ancestral recipes from them to add to her menu at the lodge. She was only 27, but she was the 4th-generation owner of Corbett Lodge, located on Pikes Peak, just above Colorado Springs. The older women she'd been visiting had been intrigued by the grit and determination of the petite young woman with blonde hair and blue eyes, but it was her love for food and cooking that won them over. She'd spent the better part of 2 weeks on the road, sometimes sleeping in the spare rooms of the women she'd gone to visit, and other times in whatever motel she could find. Some places had been downright dismal. Some had a measure of charm that even age had not been able to displace. But this morning, the visits had all come to an end. She was finally on her way home. She'd just left Dolly Porter's home, laden down with jars of pickled beets and pear honey jam, and a stack of Dolly's recipes to go with the others she'd been accumulating. She had a long drive back to Colorado, but was under no time constraints. The lodge had been closed for renovations since the day she left, but she'd received a phone call last night telling her the renovations had been finished, and now she was anxious to get home. Christmas was coming, and she couldn't wait to get the tree up in the lobby of the lodge and start shopping for gifts. As she drove, the little hand-carved Santa Claus she had hanging on her rearview mirror was swaying back and forth. She'd bought it in an Ozark craft show last week and was taking it home to hang on the Christmas tree. She thought back to the people she'd met on this trip and the wonderful food she'd had and the generosity of the elders in sharing their recipes. She was excited about incorporating them into her new menu and daydreaming as she drove when she began to see storm clouds gathering, and the further she drove, the darker it became. There was no way around it. She was about to drive into a thunderstorm, and when she did, it was a full-force deluge. Ditches on both sides of the graveled road were filling up from the rain and rushing in sudsy torrents. Her windshield wipers were on high, and she was praying that the roads here didn't flood. She'd slowed down drastically just to be able to see the road, and was anxious to get back to the main highway when she drove up to a fork in the road. She knew the right fork was the one she needed, but even through the downpour, she could see the angel, bright and shining, blocking her path. The hair crawled on the back of her neck. She was no longer alone. All of her life, Marley Corbett had seen and talked to angels.